Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of APAAP. We are a pod about a pod, and we are a podcast about podcasts featuring commentary, critique, and sneak peeks of a different show every episode. I'm your host, Jordan Pierce, and right now I'm wearing a lab coat and there's a beaker bubbling in the corner because today we are featuring a science podcast. Like many podcasters, myself included, actually, these co-hosts began as YouTube content creators with a channel called ASAP Science or ASAP Science. I've been subscribed to them on YouTube for a very long time, several years, and I remembered when they announced that they were starting a podcast, I was so excited. I was like, I'm on board. Let's listen. I've been there with them since day one, and it just makes sense. They were one of the very first podcasts I started listening to, so they should be one of the very first episodes here. So without further ado, let's get the party started with what to expect. I'm going to slip in our first sneak peek right here, right now, and let Sidenote Podcast introduce itself in a way. I'm a big fan of their intro music. It's a bop, and it's going to give us a great little summary of what to expect.
Cool kids be like,
chemistry sucks a D.
adults be like,
Physics, honey, not for me.
but we're all just alive for a teensy bit, and science is the best way to understand it. Side note, we show you studies are vague. Side note,
Even scientists can be gay.
controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are ASAP Science here to make things make sense.
Who wasn't dancing? Don't lie, because I can't listen to that and not dance. It is so catchy and very self-explanatory, in all honesty. I would describe this podcast as a synthesis of science and pop culture. They provide commentary on current events, always with scientific side notes. These episodes are contemporarily relevant. For example, their most recent uploads had to do with self-isolation and a potential vaccine for COVID-19, so very topical. Sidenote tackles a wide array of subjects, from tech and the environment to biology and the arts. The co-hosts, they discuss and debate several controversial issues that affect society and that the scientific community is speaking about at the moment. To give you an idea of the scope of their subjects that they cover, I'm going to list several of the elements you can see in their episode titles just to give you an idea. Marijuana, polyamory, Elon Musk, pets, toxic masculinity, coffee, grinder, veganism, vaccines, and Disneyland. As you can see, the range of Side Note is very dynamic, and the structure has some flexibility to it as well. Speaking of structure, I thought it would be funny to share this comment that I actually left on Side Note's show using the app Castbox. That's my preferred podcasting platform, and I left it on June 5th of 2018. I guess I was a little baby podcast reviewer. And now look at me now. Hey, look, Ma, I made it. So anyways, this is what I wrote. Love to be spending time and learning with you gents on a new platform. Some constructive criticism. I would aim for slightly more structured format within the show. Consider This American Life, which divides itself into acts with similar stories. Consider the only other podcast I listened to at the time. Maybe there could be a pro-con emphasis or a Mitch half / Greg half pattern. Together, they are Meg. Is Meg their couple name? Anyway, that's a different conversation. Sorry. That, combined with adding a couple more familiar sound effects as transitions between whatever segments you choose, will result in a show that stays more on topic and is easier to follow. Thanks for reading my feedback. Can't wait for more episodes. So I found that funny because literally the episode that they posted the day after I commented this incorporated some of my suggestions. It was their episode on therapy. I want to say it was their 6th episode, so early days again. And I just thought that was super funny. I don't think that they actually read my comment and, made the adjustments in less than 24 hours, but it's just a nice little piece of history there. I hope that they read it. It would be cool if they did. And if they hadn't, maybe they heard it now. So Mitch, Greg, collectively known as Meg, I hope you enjoyed that little piece of constructive criticism from 2018. Also, I end my comment here with, can't wait for more episodes. Maybe one about transgender. Had to include that last bit, apparently. Maybe make an episode about me, about my people. So if you didn't know, dear listener, I am a transgender man. I also mentioned earlier that I technically started off as a YouTube content creator. So I do have a YouTube channel that documented my physical transition from female to male. And now it's a vlog. So trans man vlog. Yeah. If any of y'all are curious, feel free to type those 4 words into the YouTube and I should come up. So a little cross self-promotion there. There's also an extended trailer for A Pod About a Pod on there that I would highly recommend checking out. It's a quick 6-minute video and it's just me hanging out with my friend who helped me with the logo art for this show and for all of the musical sound effects that I have to transition between my segments. So if you're interested in a little behind the scenes look at the creation of, this podcast you're listening to right here, right now, go ahead and check out my YouTube channel and I'll leave a link in the description. So no need to click away right now. It'll be waiting for you in the description after we're done here. Okay? Okay. Enough about me. Let's talk about Sidenote. As I was saying, they do now feature audio transitions with more structural elements. They have segments like What Did We Learn This Week?, Comment Corner, Story Time, and Debate Time, all of which have their unique, sound cue. Some variations happen with episodes covering certain subject matters. So, for example, the uploads discussing climate change and vaccines did not have a debate section because, well, there's nothing to debate. Those things are scientifically sound. And that sound means it's time for a little quick history. As I said, I discovered my favorite science communicators from their YouTube channel, ASAP Science, and they started that on May 28th of 2012. As of me recording today, they have over 1.3 billion views on YouTube and 9.2 million subscribers. Those aren't podcast numbers, of course, but their YouTube channel does deserve a lot of love, y'all. I would say it's worth cross-referencing Sidenote with ASAP Science because a lot of the time they use the same research to make similar videos and podcast episodes, and they kind of supplement one another. So if you really enjoy a video of theirs that you see, there might be a Sidenote episode that, dives deeper into whatever that content was. And vice versa. If there's a podcast episode you really like, there's probably a couple videos that explore the same subject in a different medium, in a slightly different way. As of now, there are 2 live episodes currently available. Number 13, which is Pop Stars, Who is the Greatest of All Time, and number 20, Musicals, What is the Greatest Show of All Time. And your next sneak peek is coming up. The main person talking throughout is actually a guest host that Greg and Mitch have for the episode's occasion. His name is Henry Kapersky. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And so he's actually the main one talking. Throughout the other sneak peeks, I promise you'll get plenty of Greg and Mitch, and you get some here, but I wanted to clarify there are going to be 3 voices talking, and the person explaining the music is a guest star. I am personally a musical theater geek, just a theater kid in general, I guess you could say. It's not like I'm the massivest fan in the world, but I love me a musical, and Mitch has that in common with me. This was an awesome episode, so anybody who has an interest, listen up, and even if you don't, your mind's about to be blown either way.
So in Wicked, my favorite part of the score is the transformation theme, and you hear it throughout the score like this. Right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
So watery. Okay. Yes, exactly. So let's sing it together. Let's sing it. Unlimited. My future is unlimited. So let me sing that just alone really quick, like with no...
He's like, Mitch, if you could...
I just want to have him... I meant without the accompaniment.
Oh, I've never seen anyone say that to you.
No. Mitch, you got to be here for this part.
I'm sorry, it's okay.
No, to prep you, I'm going to blow your mind right now. No, I meant without the piano. So it's unlimited, my future is. So let me just change the rhythm, which means where the notes land. Now let me here. I'll change the rhythm now.
Whoa!
Oh my God!
Stephen Schwartz when he was coming up for his anthem of transformation for Elphaba, took Dorothy's anthem from The Wizard of Oz, changed the rhythm, and put it over this watery sound. Somewhere
I'm like getting shivers.
the rainbow. That is why music theater is better than everything else in the world.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And here's another little fun one. You know the song Loathing from Wicked? It's like, loathing, unadulterated loathing. Yeah. So they go, every little thing, da 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 da. Let me change the rhythm.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Who told you this?
I'm a nerd.
There was your first taste of our quirky co-hosts. I'm going to take a quick break. When I get back, it will be time to meet the talent, so you'll get to know both boys a little bit better. And until then, I'm going to give you one more sneak peek, so you'll hear the jingle for the break, you'll hear the jingle for Meet the Talent, and then you're actually going to get another sneak peek. The one you just heard was 2 minutes exactly, and the next one will be about 3.5. That way you'll get to know them a little bit better before I give you the scoop on all the deets. Sound chill, fam, Liddy. All right, let's do it.
But I was at an MIA concert. Also, I wore my parents' cross-country ski boots to this concert because they had hints of neon.
No.
Yes, and all of my friends
Like without the skis. you
without
just
the
wore
skis because they were like gray with neon.
I hate
I
you.
know, and I was trying to fit in because all my friends like worked at American Apparel, and I was like, okay, me too, I'm cool too. Horrible idea. I ended up kicking a photographer who this is a different story, but he like fell to the ground and then he like posted
Because you were wearing ski boots.
and they had the metal thing at the front, and I like hurt his shin, and I was in his art exhibit later, and he had written loser on my face. Anyway, separate story. That's
my
like,
God.
it's a great story. So I'm leaving the MIA concert so drunk, very drunk.
Yes.
And there's this crowd gathering in front of a club, and like, I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? I get into the crowd. They sort of split the crowd in two, and all these people go to one side, and I and a few other people go to this other side.
Okay.
And this black SUV pulls up, and Paris Hilton gets out, like right beside me. And I don't really particularly like Paris Hilton that much, but I knew her catchphrase, and I grabbed her around the neck and was like, say I'm hot, say I'm hot.
Oh my God.
And she was like, you're hot, you're hot. And I was just like,
You're hot, you're hot.
like I was like so excited. Anyway,
Why didn't someone pull you off, or were people around her?
I don't know. It was there was lots of people. There was no security guard. And then also there's a CBC, like Canadian documentary about Paris Hilton's influence at the time. And literally it goes like, and she has crazy fans. And it cuts to a clip of me grabbing her, screaming. You can look it up. There's a photo.
This, yeah.
I'm screaming and it's like, she has crazy fans. I literally like never watched A Simple Life. I'm not a fan, but it's like, I am the typical fan in my Made in the 80s pink shirt, like losing, like white gay,
a famous person
losing
and
my
freaked
shit.
out.
Yeah. And I was like clearly gay that I fit the bill.
Right.
Anyways, she goes inside. Everything dies down. I'm so drunk with my friend, so full of confidence, feeling so good. And her black SUV is there and like no one's paying attention. I'm like, oh my God, Leah, like let's just break into her car.
No.
So we open the door and we get into Paris Hilton's car.
Wait, it was unlocked?
It was unlocked. It
Just
was
sitting
so
there
weird.
with
Just
no
sitting
one
there,
around.
unlocked. So me and Aaliyah, my friend, get in the car. We're screaming. The song is playing. You had a bad day. You take a one down.
I just picture that's like what she had on repeat the whole ride there.
I have no idea. And I'm like panicking and like so excited and just like sitting in Paris Hilton's car. I pick up this thick like wad of paper and it's a script for the movie that she's filming, House of Wax. So she's filming House of Wax in Toronto. The script's in the car and I'm like going through it. We're laughing so hard. Then my friend starts to scream.
So that movie hadn't been made yet, but it has been made now?
So yeah, it's been made. Oh yeah, oh my God, have you not seen House of Wax?
I've never seen it,
It's so
no.
funny. She gets murdered in like the most hilarious way. It's a really bad, kitschy horror film.
Okay.
But it all added up. So then like my friend screams and I'm like, oh my God, like we're getting booked by the Poe, like we're fucked. But I'm drunk, so I'm just like, whatever, like white privilege, I'm free. Like I'm totally gonna be okay. So we run and I'm like, oh my God, I'm being chased. Like I'm so scared. And like my friend's screaming. I'm like, this is so bad. We broke into her car. Then I realized that my friend's screams are like joyous. And she like looks at me and she stole her Christian Dior sunglasses.
So that was the story of the time Greg and his friend stole some sunglasses out of Paris Hilton's car. Now that we've gotten to know Greg a little bit better, I want to start off with Mitch from Meet the Talent, and then we'll circle back. Mitch's full name is Mitchell Moffett. He was born on March 27th of 1988. Happy belated birthday, my friend. You actually share a birthday with my father. Mitch loves Survivor, Zelda, and Miyazaki films. He also placed 11th on Big Brother Canada 4 and is a self-professed reality TV junkie. Another fun fact about me, because this whole podcast is about me, can't you tell? I was voted most likely to be in a reality TV show in ASB in my senior year of high school. So, hasn't happened yet, but the moment I cinch that gig, y'all will be the first to know. He came out of the closet when he started dating Greg, and I have here, the last thing I wrote is he's a very talented audio engineer. I'm pretty sure I've been spewing about it all upload, but I love his transitional melodies that you can see in Sidenote as well as ASAP Science, so I really needed to mention that. Moving on to Mr. Gregory Brown, aka Greg. He was born September 25th of 1988. He came out of the closet in high school. He is 99.9% Northwestern European, according to 23andMe, and has 87% more Neanderthal DNA than the average population. Greg is a self-professed cannabis connoisseur, same, and he also describes himself as the RuPaul of science queens. Very classy. He is a doer with a side of sass and a budding comedian who laughs at his own jokes and a Bjork fangirl. So that was from his description on the ASAP Science website. And I just thought, why mess with that? It's perfectly written. So I just read it right off the page for you. Together, some things they have in common. They're both from Canada. They've been dating since they were about 18 or 19 years old, and they met studying at the University of Guelph. 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 I like how it feels in the mouth. I like the mouth feel of it. I don't like what it looks like written down. Anyway, both are avid readers who compete to see who can read more books in a year, and relatively recently they got a new dog, Ernie the Golden Retriever, which is pretty damn cute. So that was the hot goss on Mitch and Greg, but I did want to shout out one other person who's a big contributor, and that is Rachel Salt. She is a producer for them as well as their main researcher. So she commonly contributes voiceovers throughout the Sidenote episodes, so you will hear her if you decide to check out the show. She describes herself as a book nerd who takes the deep dive into research for Sidenote and ASAP Science. She's also the designated plant mum, and she loves sharks and eggs. So, you know, she really loses her mind for shark eggs, especially. I don't know if that's true, but probably. To kick off Side Note's Why It's Worth It section, I would be remiss to not mention how well researched the show is. That is why I wanted to highlight Rachel in the Meet the Talent part, because the science speaks for itself. They find the most relevant studies that are often the most timely and the most compelling. And not only that, they do seek out other studies that come to different conclusions. That's one of the reasons the debate format is so compelling. Oftentimes, they may be arguing for something they don't actually believe, and yet they have to find the studies that those who hold that opinion cite in order to defend the position. The enthusiasm for science communication is unmistakable, and the fun they are having is contagious. These co-hosts are passionate, opinionated, and emotionally available, which provides a powerful perspective that is engaging as well as educational. These boys can get heated or distraught or awestruck or annoyed, depending on the topic or the direction of the conversation. And I have an excellent sneak peek that illustrates exactly what I'm talking about. So I hope y'all will find this next soundbite just as endearing as I do. I think I picked the perfect sneak peek for this segment of the show, and I will tell you why. A, it perfectly demonstrates why Side Note podcast is worth the listen, which is why we're here. B, you get a taste of that banter between Greg and Mitch that is so authentic and adorable. And C, you then get the scientific side note, which is away from the more conversational part of the podcast where they just isolate on the studies and the science. So this episode is all about video games, which is another subject near and dear to my heart. So enjoy this sneak peek, and I will see you on the other side.
Yeah, no, I've just loved video games. So, okay, you're saying you do like Zelda or you don't?
Well, oh God, I guess I don't. Like, I just feel like...
What?
No, like, I do like Zelda. Like, I think it's so creative. I think it's so challenging. I think it's so smart. It's one of those games where I'm like, parents are like, oh, my kids play video games. Is it numbing their brain? It's like, Zelda's not. Zelda is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not built for them. People who play video games, people play them their whole lives, so they have this like ingrained skill set that I don't think they realize they have. Like when I play Zelda, I'm literally like, wait, what? I have to like chop down a tree? Like what?
Like
how
how?
that was just for show. Or when it was like I was freezing to death for hours on end, and finally you're like, eat hot peppers and it'll make you feel hot in the cold. And I was like, how the hell would I ever know to cook hot peppers?
Video games generally get a bad reputation in online reporting, but I'm here to break down some of the awesome benefits that studies have shown can come from playing. If you were to boot up your good old Nintendo 64 and play Super Mario for 30 minutes a day,
It's me, Mario.
after a couple months, you'd likely experience an increase in gray matter in areas associated with memory, strategic planning, and fine motor skills. At least that's what studies have found. I mean, I don't want to blame Greg's measly gray matter, but like, if there's a patch of hot peppers growing in snow and it's sparkling at you from a distance, maybe you should just try to eat it. Yeah, do you agree?
Finish him!
Action games have also been shown to increase attention to detail in individuals as well. In fact, your average person can keep track of around 3 to 4 moving objects at once, while a practiced gamer can keep track of 6 to 7. On top of it all, gamers are generally better at perceptual tasks like pattern discrimination. But the nice thing is, for all you naysayers out there, that if you do just spend some time playing games, these benefits are available to everyone without the need to play for hours on end. So pick up the controller and just play a little. Have some fun.
In my opinion, that audio design is A+. I love the little sound effects that they intersperse there, as well as that music for the scientific explanation calmly playing underneath. I just feel like it's very well done, and it makes it all the more engaging. Those like little Super Mario sound effects, like, just makes it more immersive too. I think that might be the word I'm looking for. Greg and Mitch share about themselves, their relationship, and their personal lives as it's relevant to the episode. This increases the feeling of intimacy because the boys are so close and they're letting you be close to their closeness. So it really feels like you're getting to know them and almost seeing behind the curtain of their ordinary day-to-day life. I would also say they're a great representation for queer science communicators. And, you know, as somebody who's a member of the LGBT community, I love seeing the representation and just how out and proud and themselves they are. Another thing Sidenote does that I appreciate is rephrasing their ideas in multiple ways using colloquial language and relevant examples that most audience members can relate to. They ask each other clarifying or prompting questions that help to dive deeper or verify their understanding or comprehension. This podcast is also extremely responsive to current events and audience-driven demand for content. For example, they kicked off this month, which is March of 2020, with an episode about the reality series Love is Blind on Netflix, which I honestly wouldn't have watched probably if they hadn't done an episode on it, and I'm very happy I did. It's a great show if you love reality TV. That was followed by an upload on self-isolation, and their most recent episode was about a COVID-19 vaccine. So you can see that they take the science communication very seriously, and they want to target topics that will be most useful to all of us.
Room for improvement.
You may have noticed that the show does have a fair bit of chaotic energy. You could probably listen to an episode of Sidenote instead of having your morning espresso shot for the day. Greg and Mitch both have big personalities, and because they're so comfortable with each other, there's plenty of interruptions, talking over one another, and finishing each other's sentences as a result. As always, I have a sneak peek locked and loaded to illustrate what I'm talking about. As I usually say at the top of Room for Improvement, I'm not trying to hate on Greg and Mitch. The whole reason I'm featuring them on an episode is because I love them and what they do. But I do include this segment to have my perspective be balanced, and every single project, whether it's a podcast or a person, has room for improvement. So here is a snippet from their Biorobots episode, and I will talk more about it after we get back.
So essentially, they've been trying to figure out how to build robots properly so that we can have emotional reactions to them, so that they could potentially help us. Essentially, if we're like lonely, like they haven't quite figured
like
out
a little
exactly.
puppy dog, like how, in the way that dogs who have a real relationship
Yes,
with.
and there are people in this world who could benefit from that. And this specific one called Emmys, I'm going to call it Emmys.
Okay, hey Emmy.
Teaches little kids language.
Oh.
And so it's sort of like a mix of things. It was like a study that I found mixed with the actual robot that this study helped to create.
Okay.
So it kind of looks like WALL-E. It's made by Flash Robotics.
I think maybe I've seen. Is it like white with a black face, like a screen face, or am I picturing something else?
So part of the study is that they were like, okay, we're going to divide the face into 3 separate sections. So the eyes are going to be attached to this like top ring. There's going to be a middle ring and there's going to be a bottom ring, so that it can kind of like move its eyes down, and it can kind of like, it has like essentially 3 little prods at the top of it that are circular. So, okay, sorry. Let me try and explain this through a podcast. If the head is a sphere, and it's almost as if they cut like little slices out of the sphere so that it's only made of 3 different. Oh my God, this is so bad. Is it making any sense to you?
Not really.
No, yeah, it's hard to explain.
The sphere part did.
Okay, so it's a sphere with like...
Why don't we just say people can look it up, but we don't need to know exactly what it looks like.
That's so funny. But I'm actually like, holy crap, like language. I'm like feeling like, I'm like I feel like if I was doing like intelligence test, they'd be like, yeah, you're dumb.
This robot's smarter than you.
Yeah. Anyways, it's sort of just like, is like a sphere with missing parts that allows it to like have a bit of a mouth and a bit of a forehead. That goes up
we
and
were
down.
like, it's not working, and then you just went back to the same thing. Like, it's a sphere.
Well, because I'm actually realizing it's like the most important part of trying to explain.
What you're going to talk about.
No, I'm actually like, okay, we need to move on. But anyway, studying literally the way that they made the sphere. They put it in front of a bunch of kids to see if the kids would be able to detect its emotion. So it has screens that are 2 eyes, but it doesn't have a screen at the face.
Okay,
I'm just going to whiz on through this. Okay.
So as we just heard, there is a certain level of self-awareness about what is going wrong in that sneak peek, and yet Greg plows ahead anyway. And to cut him some slack, this is during their What Did I Learn This Week section of the show, so they're just conversationally reporting on whatever new information they happened to have found, and it's not what the actual episode is going to be about. So the biorobots is something separate to the robot Greg is talking about here, and I want to make that distinction because when it boils down to the science communication, that sort of discombobulation is not usually a factor. Often when one of the hosts is explaining a study, there's a separate recording which is clean, clear, and might even be read over pleasant music with serendipitous sound effects, as we heard in that video games sneak peek. Also, while I did speak at length about why I think this perspective that Greg and Mitch offer is important, unique, and valuable, I think it's also a good thing to recognize that it can be pretty polarizing. For me, as a member of the LGBT community, I like the inclusion and occasional discussion of queer identity politics, but it might turn off those that are more conservative listeners. So while Greg and Mitch also strive for balance in their show, and, they have that debate format because the controversial issues often have more than one side, it is safe to say that the podcast probably leans left. We've arrived at the end of our show. Welcome to the Peanut Gallery. I hope you enjoyed this episode featuring the Sidenote podcast from my favorite science communicators, Gregory Brown and Mitchell Moffitt. We don't have a surprise guest for today's episode, so instead, let me tell you how you can get featured in the Peanut Gallery here at A Pod About a Pod. the best way is to email us at apodaboutabpod@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show. I'm always looking for more podcasts to listen to and potentially feature in future episodes, so feel free to send me your favorites, and you can even, if you'd like, send me a specific episode and a specific timestamp if there's something you're like, this would be an excellent sneak peek for Meet the Talent or why it's worth it, whatever else. Feel free. Send your podcast recommendations to apodaboutabpod@gmail.com, whatever your favorite podcasts that you think are worth a listen, and I'll see if you're right about that. The easiest way to stay connected with all things APAAP is to follow us on social media, and that's at apodaboutabpod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also listen to the show on YouTube. I actually just posted episodes 1 and 2 on there, so scope that, share it out, and maybe look up ASAP Science while you're there, because if you like what you heard in today's sneak peeks of the Sidenote podcast, you'd probably dig Greg and Mitch's science videos too. If you're enjoying this podcast currently caressing your ears, I would love to hear from you about why. Please consider leaving a 5-star review and subscribing on whatever platform you use to listen. It really helps me to grow the show and reach more people to preach the podcast gospel. I'm going to actually read out one review I have here in front of me from the APAAP Facebook. It says, Stephen Dunham recommends A Pod About a Pod. It's good. Really good. So good, I'd tell someone it's good. So, I don't know if any of y'all are going to top that, but if you're feeling Shakespearean, go for it. Shoot your shot. Okay, I think that's enough for me for now. Thanks for tuning in to today's upload featuring the podcast Side Note. I will be back on Sunday, April 12th with another episode featuring another podcast near and dear to my heart. I'll see you then.